This is our first disc system, Libroscope disc, that you heard a little bit about. Cabinet was about 7 feet high, 12 feet long, 3 feet deep. Discs were 5 feet in diameter, mounted on a horizontal shaft. We were told that it was very susceptible to vibration, so instead of putting it on the false floor, we excavated and mounted it on the steel I-beams of the building. That turned out to be not all that important for a reason I'll get into. The cost was about $330,000, the capacity 50 megabytes. That was the state of the art. However, we discovered that a temperature change of about 1 degree was enough to make it start forgetting. And since our computer room had originally been designed as a cafeteria, it had lots of outside windows, and we had 2 air conditioning systems that fought each other, so we couldn't use it. We ended up suing Libroscope. Well, actually, by that time they'd been bought out by the Singer Sewing Machine Company, and so we sued Singer. And as usual, the only people who made out on that were the lawyers. We then decided to scrap them, but it occurred to me that the discs would make nice coffee tables. So we auctioned them off. I got one, and so did some other people here. Here's my living room with a Libroscope disc. You can notice it's a bit discolored.
How expensive was the coffee table?
How
Expensive is the coffee table?
Oh, we calculate that it cost about $10,000 each to make, but we auctioned them off for $125 to $140. Curiously, the ones that were most scarred drew the highest prices, and the most scarred one is upstairs in the lobby here. We preserved that. But anyway, in case you wonder why this is so discolored, I discovered that the nickel plating, which was the magnetic material, is somewhat soluble in alcohol. Okay, the sailed art chronology, we added reliable magnetic discs in 1971, I believe, and started using a program written by Ralph Gorin called DART, started backing up and archiving the files.
How long will they last?
What was that?
How long will they last?
The tapes?
Oh, they didn't last. Okay, that's why we had to, Martin copied them in the 1988 to 90 period, because we knew, and some of the files were lost in the process because of dropouts, magnetic dropouts. Then, still later, 1997, 98, we converted the tapes to SCSI discs, and the expanded files took 53 gigabytes, tiny amount by modern standards, horrendous amount by the old-time standards. And then Bruce Baumgart created the archive in 2006 for general access. How can these files be preserved? Well, you can think about a commercial operation such as Google, a nonprofit corporation such as archive.org, government agencies, or universities working together. I reject commercial corporations because they've got to dedicate themselves to the bottom line. And when it becomes cheaper to trash it, it's gone. Even a relatively benign corporation like Google. Archive.org has been doing an excellent job of preserving the web. But if it's like most such activities, it will eventually run into financial problems and probably go out of business. That's my guess. Government agencies, don't trust them. They'll try to censor, but politicians will get involved. It's no way to do it. Universities, on the other hand, are dedicated to collecting and preserving information. And I think that they provide a solider base for doing this kind of thing for the long term. Because some of them will disappear, but others will continue. And if you have some kind of a consortium that can work together, there's a good chance of preserving things for the long haul. What is needed? We need low-cost memory. It's already here. It's getting cheaper. Worldwide network. Well, we've got the internet. An organization for distributing files worldwide for backup and getting them copied to the new media. There is an organization called LOCKSS. That stands for Lots of Copies, Keep Stuff Safe. It's a bunch of libraries, including Stanford and CMU and hundreds of others around the world. Their policy is to make 7 copies of everything and keep them going that way. If one of them gets wiped out, make another copy somewhere. This has been in operation for some time. I didn't know about it until a month or so ago when I stumbled across them.
I've been in touch with these people.
Well, I am now too. And they're kind of interested in this problem of archiving for the long term. What else is needed? We need a fee structure that fairly charges for services and distributes income equitably among participants. That's a toughie.
0.
Well, a scheme for ensuring the integrity of records. We want to have digital signatures on everything so that we can check that nothing has changed. And then, since there are multiple copies, you can cross-check them against each other to make sure they're consistent. So that's something that falls out of the LOCKSS system. Programs for translating old file formats to new ones as needed. Well, that's somewhat challenging. File formats keep changing. At least if you've done one translation from an old format to a newer one, and then a still newer one arrives, if you can write a translator from the newer one to the newest one, you can cascade them. You don't have to start from scratch. So, what's that?
Maybe lossy in the process.
Maybe lossy?
Each step loses information.
Shouldn't, if it's done right.
You have the original.
Okay, we also need emulators for extinct computers.
Yes, that is happening well.
Yeah, that's fairly straightforward, though complicated. But it's doable.
Those old computers are very simple.
Yeah, it's easier to resurrect computers than it is people. Okay, well...
I'm working on the Les Earnest simulator.
Okay, current toughie is translation between modern languages. Now, there is considerable progress being made on that, and I expect it'll get better over time, but it's not yet a solved problem. So this is kind of a weak link for now. If you think ahead 1,000 years, if there's anybody speaking a language called English then, they won't understand anything we're saying now. It will be a completely different language. As you know, if you look back at Old English, very hard to understand. And that's only like, what, 500, 600 years old, something like that. So this will require ongoing work to translate from older languages to newer ones as they arise. But people are getting better at this, so there's a chance of making it work. Okay, who can do it? I think an augmented LOCKSS or a new organization that uses LOCKSS preservation and pays for it. You know, it could be sort of grafted on. I'm not sure politically what will work out best. So that's it.
So the issue. The reason for this whole meeting is to get enough people interested in this problem to kind of meet like Les and others did about ARPANET in 1968 and kind of agree on a protocol and the process and all the rest of the things. And that can't be done today, obviously. The reception is waiting, the wine is waiting, we should go there. But Les will send out a message to everybody, and anyone that wants to volunteer to get together over a beer or whatever he suggests should kind of come up with a proposal on how to preserve things for the Y3K.
We can put some more stains on his coffee table.
Yes, that too. I'm sure there are a lot of ideas, a lot of questions, a lot of suggestions, but today is not the time, but let's do it, and if necessary, we'll have another reunion in a year from now to report on the progress.
Thank you.
So now we retire to Stanford Faculty Club.
I want to ask for a brief applause for Les and Raj for organizing this so nicely. Thanks for doing this.